Hi, I'm just going to take a moment to tell you that all the programs I discuss in the video have links in the description below, which you could click and practice for yourself. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Today we're going to look at CSV files. We'll start by looking at the CSV module, opening and closing a CSV file, absolute and relative paths for a CSV file, and access modes for such files. We'll also look at methods to read, write, and append to a CSV file. CSV files or comma-separated value files are special kinds of text files which contain data separated by commas, and these can contain tabular data in plain text, in which case each line will have the same number of fields. For example, we have a file which contains name, address, and email. Then each line will contain the same fields. The CSV module contains objects and other code to read, write, and process data from and to a CSV file. The CSV module's reader and writer objects are used to read and write in Python, and we use the import CSV statement to access them. A CSV file is opened and closed just like a text file with Python's inbuilt open and close functions. Open returns a file object which is then passed to the reader, which does the rest of the work. We can use the statements f equal to open, give the name of the file, the mode in which we want to open, or we could use with open, give the name of the file, the mode in which we want to open as, and give the name of the file object. Just like binary and text files, we can use absolute or relative paths to open a CSV file in Python. In case the file is stored in the same folder as the one in which we are writing our Python script, then we need to use the relative path. Otherwise, we'll give the absolute path, which means we need to give the name of the drive, the folder, and the subfolder. We'll now look at access modes. We start with read-only mode, which is our default access mode, and it opens a CSV file for reading only. The file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. It starts reading from there, and if the file is not found, it reports an error. R plus is used both for reading and writing. W or write only mode opens a CSV file for writing only, and the file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. It overwrites the data of an existing file and creates a new one in case the one specified in open does not exist. The access mode append only is represented by A. In this case, the file pointer is placed at the end of the file. It starts writing at the end of the file which already exists. In case a file does not exist, then it creates a new file. The CSV module presents various classes and methods to perform read or write operations on CSV files. One of those methods is writer. We need to pass a file object or a file handle with write permission as a parameter to this method. This method then returns a writer object that converts data into a delimited string and stores it in a file object. The writer object that is created will have the following methods: write row, which writes items in an iterable such as lists, tuples, or strings and separates them with comma character. Write rows, which is a function that writes all given rows to the CSV file. Another important function in the CSV module is the reader function, which returns a reader object, which returns an iterator of lines in the CSV file. Using a regular for loop, we can display all the lines in the file as a list. We're going to look at an example where we'll write, read, and append to a CSV file. We begin by importing the CSV module. We take a variable students to which we assign a list of tuples. We open a new file student.csv in write mode. We'll use the writer method from the CSV module to which we pass the file handle, and we create a writer object. Now we're going to use the method write rows from this object, and we'll pass the list students to it, and we'll close the file. Then we open the file in read mode, and we are going to create a reader object using the function reader, to which we pass the file handle. We use a for loop to read each row in this object. We again take another variable new students, and we have another list of tuples which we are going to add to our list student.csv using append mode. We again use a writer here, and we use the writer rows method of this writer object, and we close this file. We once again open the student.csv file in the read mode, use the reader function to which we are going to pass the file handle. Again, we use the for loop to read each row in this file. When we execute this file, we'll see that in the output, it shows for the first time that we read student.csv, there are 3 records. However, when we append to this list and we read this file again, we'll notice that now we have 6 records. We're going to look at the same example once again. However, we're going to write row instead of write rows method from the writer object. We'll start by importing the CSV module. We also add a new tuple which gives the header to our rows in the list of students. We open the file students.csv in write mode. We use the writer function to which we pass the file handle. Now we are going to use a for loop to read each element of students list, and we are going to use write row to write each element to this file. Once we've done that, we close the CSV file and open it for reading. Again, we're going to add another list of new underscore students to the above file. So we open it in append mode. We use the writer function to which we pass the file handle. Again, we use the for loop for elements in new underscore students, and we use the write row method from this object and pass each element of this new list, and we close this file. Once we've done that, we open it to read it again, and once we execute this file, you'll notice that it has 3 records in the beginning, and once we've appended to the file, we now have 6 records, including a header. We look at another example where we are going to write a list of lists to a CSV file. We begin by importing the module CSV. We have a variable data which stores a list of lists. We open the CSV file temp.csv in write mode, and we're going to use the writer function to create a writer object. We use the write rows method from this object to write the list of lists to the file. Once we've done that, we can open to read this file, and notice that we haven't mentioned the access mode, but since R is the default mode, so this will be open for reading. We use the reader function to read the file, and each row is displayed using the for loop. We can also output the list of lists as string using join. So when we execute it, the output shown the first time is the lists. The second time, it will show the output like a string. I hope you got the picture. Now, if you haven't understood all the programs, you can always click on the link in the description below. And I hope to see you soon.